stuck in rumination in your mind where you are talking to yourself so negatively, you're saying things to yourself that you would not fathom saying to your best friend, your sister, your niece, your child, but you can't seem to get out of that loop. You are completely stressed out, you're completely overwhelmed, and on top of that, you are talking complete shit to yourself. This, my dear, is the one, the only, the inner critic. And that inner critic can determine exactly how you behave and exactly what you do to make you feel terrible. Our inner critics are actually protectors in our bodies. However, oftentimes they're trying to protect us from a threat that doesn't exist. So today we're going to talk about the 5 things that you can do to interfere and tame that inner critic. Welcome back to the Mindset Mirror Connection live stream. Welcome to the Mindset Mirror Connection podcast, the podcast where we debunk the eat less, move more, shrink more mentality and focus on what really matters, which includes your relationship with your body, food, self-worth, and the behaviors that align with all of those. I'm your host, Christina Hathaway, licensed therapist with specialized training in food and body obsession, certified personal trainer and nutrition coach. At the Mindset Mirror Connection podcast, we believe what you say in your mind, you see in the mirror. So let's have a conversation about that. Let's do it. Welcome back, guys. I'm so excited that you're here. Today, we are continuing our conversation about stress and how it affects the body. Last week, we discussed the concept of the relaxation response and how when we are in a heightened place, when we're stressed out, our bodies, say threat is here, right? So our amygdala says there is a threat. It releases hormones, which we know as cortisol, norepinephrine, and epinephrine, and adrenaline. And then once our minds, it kind of scans, is that threat still there? Is it still there? Once we realize the threat is gone, our body and those hormones go back in the kitchen, wherever they're at, right? We're back in the garage and we come out of that. And that process brings us back down into parasympathetic nervous system, which is where we recover from that threat. However, as I talked about last week, when we are in a chronically stressed state with social media and notifications and relationship issues and toxins in our environment and eating processed foods and having, 10,000 things on your list, if you're not aware, you will stay in that stress response because our brains don't know the difference. And I know this is repetitive from last week, but our brains don't know the difference between a true threat like a ball being thrown at us, that is a true threat, versus a calendar invite from our boss where we think we're going to get fired. It does not know the difference. And so, just to review last week, and if you guys want to go back to that live stream, it is titled. I'm going to try to title these so you can find them better. I haven't been doing that, which YouTube loves. Um, what I talked about is recognizing that when we're in that stress state, what we need to do before anything else is calm our body down. Because if we are in a stress state, what our body does not do is think clearly. Because you have to realize the autonomic nervous system, it's automatic, right? And the autonomic nervous system's job is to fight. So run towards the threat and fight it, or run away, flight, right? Freeze happens kind of in this mid range, but last week we were talking about the fight or flight. Okay. Freeze is when, and I mentioned this last week, freeze is when we think we cannot get out. So either obviously fight is fighting our way out, and flight is running our way out. Freeze, however, says, I can't get out of this. And so I dissociate, I disconnect, and that in itself can have a whole slew of issues. All 3 of them do when we're stuck in them chronically. And so again, when we're in that chronic headspace, we're just trying to run or fight, okay? So what's not happening is thinking and processing and trying to understand the situation until our bodies come down. So we talked about the relaxation response and utilizing something like diaphragmatic breathing, 478 breathing, or boxed breathing that will there's very simple ways to bring yourself down to a place where we can bring that prefrontal cortex back online. Very simple. Breath work is the easiest way to connect to the vagus nerve, and the vagus nerve is connected to all organs. Okay. So, breath work is a very easy way to stimulate that nerve and allow our bodies to relax. But here's what happens. Okay. Now we're relaxed, but all of a sudden we're thinking, why did you do that? Right? What's wrong with you? Why can't you figure this out? You're so stupid. You did that thing again. Right? Especially if our response to stress is eating, right? Is reaching for comfort food, is yelling at our partner, right? And we're trying to work on our relationship with our partner, is body checking and pinching and yelling at ourselves. That inner critic is there to shame you. And it thinks if I shame you into believing what I'm saying, you won't do it again. But that's not how it works, right? That's not how it works. Because what happens? The inner critic starts yelling at us. We believe it. And most likely what we do, because remember, when our brain says excitable bad, I don't like this, it will have a way to find relief from that thing. And our inner critic will say, you're so stupid. Why did you do that again? Why can't you figure this out? You might as well give up. What else? I want you guys to throw in the chat. What is one of the things that your inner critic says to you that you hear often? When I was younger, I would speak so poorly to myself. I would say things like, you're so fucking stupid. And I say it now and like it literally makes my stomach turn thinking about how I would talk about myself. But that's all I knew. And I did not know that I had control over those thoughts, which we'll talk about here in a sec. I just knew that what my brain was telling me was so mean. It was so degrading. And it was my voice. And I believed it. Right. So let's kind of expose a bit of that inner critic. Throw it in the chat for me. And while you guys are working on that, what ends up happening is, for me at least, when it was like, you're so fucking stupid, why do you even try? Like, no one cares. I would try harder, right? I would try harder because I knew, part of my struggle was that if I could achieve it, I would be worthy. So I would push myself and push myself. And all that was doing was increasing the stress in my body, right? Which was just increasing that noise from my critic, which was just making me push harder. And then it would just circle over and over and over again. And this is what happens, right? There's part of it too. So I should have prepared this for you guys. Let me see if I can find this real quick. So while I'm doing this, guys, let's throw in the chat what is a part of the inner critic that you struggle with the most. I want to find what I'm trying to look for is a part of like a photo of that feedback loop. And I know I have a ton of them because this is something we talk about in the mindset method. And let's see here. I have so many things, you guys. I have so many papers, which aren't papers, they're files in my dealio here. Here, I'll just find one for us. Let's see. Okay. Typing so fast. All right. Here we go. Mm-mm-mm. No. Shoot, I don't wanna keep you guys from what we're talking about. Um, Here we go. This is a good one. All right, we found it. Let me just get it on here and then I'll share my screen with you guys. Okay, so let's share my screen. Okay. So this is a cognitive emotional loop, right? So something triggers you, right? Something is going to trigger you. And you are going to have that thought, right? Like you're going to be stressed. Oh my God, what just happened? And sometimes the trigger isn't necessarily just like right away. it's almost like throughout the day, right? You're stressing yourself out, you're stressing yourself out, you're putting too much on your plate, which you don't know you're doing because it feels so comfortable for you to put everything on your plate. But over time, what happens is you get so tired of being so stressed out that your defense mechanisms come down. That inner critic comes up and says, "This isn't fair. I can't do this. This is ridiculous. Nobody wants to help me. Why do I have to do this by myself?" Whatever that is. Then, right, the emotions come up. We feel sadness, we feel discomfort, we feel shame. And remember, like we talked about, anytime our bodies feel discomfort, it is going to look for the fastest way to make that discomfort go away, right? So, those behaviors, I yell at someone, right? I eat the food, I go exercise. That's a big one for people, right? I push myself into the ground. And I think in my mind that I'm creating a sense of relief, but really all I'm doing is making this loop go round and round and round. So, let me come back to you. There we go. Let's see. Stop share. Oh, good. All right. We've got some people. I have mine. So we're talking about inner critic. Mine likes to tell me I'm stupid for doing things that make me feel negative. Like it's saying I can't do anything right. It's so constant that you don't know that it's happening unless you start becoming aware. Absolutely. Fear of failure, feeling like you're not enough. I have that I can't do anything right. See, even when I try, I fail. Right. And the thing about your inner critic is it is a protector part. Now, I, in my therapy practice, am trained in parts work, which is called internal family systems. And I've already touched on this, but I think it's really important for people to understand that we have our wounded inner child, and then we have this inner critic, right? The wounded inner child is those very deep, dark feelings we have about ourselves, the unlovable, worthless, not good enough. It's really a very shame based part of us. And our ego and that inner critic's job is to protect us from feeling those feelings. However, that protection can look a few ways. It can look like control, perfection. Um, it can look like manipulation. It can look like achievement, distraction, right? It's the things that we do to try to make ourselves look good. So that's part of that inner critic. There's part of your inner critic that's like, you should be doing more. You could be doing better because it thinks if I keep achieving, no one will see that wounded part of myself in that, what I call the dungeon. It's in my dungeon. I lock it away, right? I think of the protector as kind of the warden, right? The inner critic is the warden being like, well, you shouldn't have done that, right? Now you're going to be in solitary confinement, right? However, there's also parts of that critic and that rumination that we call the guard dogs. And those guard dogs are the part of us that are ruthless, they're reactive. It's the part that's like, you're so stupid. It's yelling at other people, it's dissociating. One part is proactive, that's kind of a like, you should be doing better, you should get this going, right? And another part is that's proactive, excuse me, and then the what I call your guard dogs is reactive. That's a reactive part of you. I think it's really important to note that when that inner critic is loud, especially when it's the like you should be everything you guys talked about. You're not doing enough, you should be doing better, I can't do anything right. That's a protective part of you. It doesn't feel that way. But I think when we can realize it's trying to protect me from something actually deeper, what is that? Right? What is that thing? And oftentimes, as I talk to you guys about, it's shame, it's feeling maybe disconnected or rejected, feeling abandoned, right? Feeling overwhelmed. And I think that's really important because if we can get to the root of that, then we can also realize like, okay, when my inner critic starts yelling at me, it's really actually protecting me from something deeper. Yeah, perfectionism is exactly, it's paralyzing at times, not even knowing where to start. Yes, overwhelming feelings, absolutely. And I get that. I know I share my story with you guys, like, this is something I've struggled with myself. And and I know how, like, you just sit there and you're like, "Well, I need to make the best choice. I need to make the best choice, and I can't make the best choice." And when we are doing that, what are we're also doing now our brain's like, "Threat, threat," right? So it all works together. So now we're stressed out, we're trying to make the best choice, and at a certain point, for a lot of you guys, that reactive protectors, like, "I can't do this anymore," shut down. I think of, like, this, like, robot that's like, and then you pull the plug and it's just like, right? And it just shuts down. And then what happens? You're like, "Why did you shut down?" Right? And then it just keeps, "See, you can't do it." When really it's because we're working from this deeper place. We're working we're trying to avoid an emotion that if we can just walk through and experience, which I'm gonna talk to you guys about how to do that, experience it, acknowledge it, and allow it to just come and go, we don't need any of those parts. Their job is no longer needed. But for a lot of us, it's really hard to go there. So I'm gonna talk to you how to do it in the most comfortable way, okay? But I appreciate your guys' vulnerability. That by itself is how we change it, because we can't change what we don't know, right? We cannot change what we do not know or acknowledge. And I want you to remember this, if you don't remember anything else from this live stream, that you are the thinker of your thoughts. You are not your thoughts, okay? When I say that to people or remind them of that, they realize this is true, right? You could be in a full-blown spiral, and I can like, you can be full-blown spiral, and I'm not talking about, like, a psychotic spiral, that's different, right? We're talking about even an anxiety, right? And I can bring up something that you love. I can say, "Oh, there's your dog," and you can literally stop thinking about the spiral and look at the dog. Right? Because you like the dog. Your brain knows you like the dog. So you're like, "Dog." And then we've interrupted the spiral. I say that, not like it happens like that in person, but you at any point can choose to think something else. However, you have to have this online, and that's why we talked about relaxation last week. When we're starting to feel the robot kind of when I think of this, I think of the robot from, oh god, what was that cartoon Simpsons show? Like that robot, but then he's got, like, all these arms coming out of him. What the fuck was that called? And it had the lady with one eye. I don't remember. Anyway, and it's just like flail or oh no, I know what it is. It's like one of those car things, right? Like, "Ah, this is you," like when you're flailing, right? When you're flailing like that, we just have to recognize, like, I need to bring my body back down. I need to calm down. And that's, when someone else tells us to calm down, we don't want to hear that. But we need to tell ourselves, like, I cannot make any sort of decision in this state. Now, again, as I talked about last week, we need to practice relaxation when we're not stressed out to condition our minds to realize, oh, when I breathe and I do this breath work, I like it. Our brains will clock that. That's how conditioning works. When I take these breaths, I feel calm. And when we practice it when we're not stressed, our brains are conditioned to being stressed. And then we I just talked about this. Hold on. This is funny. When we're stressed, we can better recall it. I started calling my intrusive thoughts Craig, and I tell him, "Shut up, Craig. I don't know what you're talking about." Strangely enough, it worked. Okay. I just had this conversation with someone. So back in the day in the mindset method, we used to name the inner critic. We'd pull it out, we'd name it. And recently, I I saw somewhere someone say, "Name your inner critic a man if you're a woman. Name it a man, and a man that, like, a name that you don't like, right? So the lady who was saying it was saying exactly that, like, and make it a man's voice instead of your voice. And then try to have a man be screaming at you in your ear and be like, "Shut the fuck up, Brad." Like, and we already talk about this with the inner critic that, like, the easiest thing to stop the inner critic is literally just being like, "Not right now, not today. We're not doing this right now." That's how I talk to my inner critic. "We are not doing this right now." But that Judy, I know, it Judge Judy, Judy is a big one. Karen was one that people named it. Ursula, Mold, Sir. That was actually a male client who had a lot of trauma from actually, fraternity abuse. It was fascinating, and he was, like, named it Sir. I may have to change now. What is the male version? Okay, guys, what's the male version of Judy? I think Judge Judy, so I'm trying to think of who would be the male. You guys put it in the chat. I don't know who it would be. Um, but yes, naming it is very important. It's not gonna be a part of our 5 today, but giving it a persona, characterizing it so that it's not you, right? It's this entity that kind of enters your mind when things aren't going your way, right? When I feel out of control. Oh, sorry if you guys didn't hear that. Just said my connection was off. Just to reiterate in case you didn't hear me, when we name that inner critic and we characterize it, I used to have, and when I'm practicing therapy, I will have my clients actually draw their critic. I will have them write all of the thoughts that the critic shares with them. We will name it, and then we'll keep that. I've done that with children as young as 5, 4 or 5, up to adults that are 60 years old. It is so helpful because it separates who you are from this entity that infiltrates your brain. Okay. So that is one thing that is super helpful. Clients, Helga. I recently named mine Helga. That's good. I'm trying to think for Judy, I think like because she's so I'm just thinking of her persona, but I think like Judd seems like a dud. Um Jerome. Name him Jerome. Shut up, Jerome. Right? I love it. Okay. So we bring our bodies down, we bring the prefrontal cortex online. Now we have to begin the process of subconscious kind of recalibrating. Okay. So I'm going to share this with you. Some of you have seen this already. Let's see. Where is my. No, there it is. Okay. So subconscious recoding practice looks like this, right? One thing that we haven't talked about, actually, can you see this? Yeah, okay. One thing that we haven't talked about, you guys, is now not only naming our inner critic, but also recognizing the themes around the types of distorted thoughts that our inner critic is sharing with us. And so, distorted thought, what you call cognitive distortions, there's actually a lot of I'm gonna stop sharing actually for right now. There are different themes to those distortions. And so let me pull those up for you. I want you guys to be thinking about the distortions that you struggle with the most because again, oftentimes there is a theme to them. So the first distortion is let me just give you I want to give you uh this one. This is actually the one we use. So, okay, cool. Let me share. All right. So the first one is mind reading, right? We assume we know what other people are thinking. This one happens often. I was just talking to a client who is recently, she's in her postpartum period of pregnancy. And she says, I keep forgetting my husband can't read my mind. Right. And when we assume people know what we want, then they don't do it. We get really pissed. Right. When in all reality, we're not sharing what we want. The next is negative focus or maximizing the negatives. When this is like when you just ignore any positive aspects and only see negative. So, say that the scale you're in a weight loss phase and the scale stays the same, but you've had personal bests in the gym, you feel absolutely amazing, you went like a notch in on your belt, people are making comments to you, but the scale hasn't moved. If you're in that negative focus or maximizing the negatives, you're gonna be like, "See, none of that matters because the scale's not moving." Okay. The next one is catastrophizing. When you expect the worst case scenario to happen to you, right? I just got off a call today with a client who said, when she's an OBGYN and I always talk about her because she's the last client I see before this. Um, she used to have struggles with binge eating. And now she'll have these really long call shifts and need more food. Like she literally needs more food because I think we realized like there was days where she slept maybe 3 hours, but in her mind, she catastrophizes that if she eats beyond, her planned meals, that she's binging. And that's worst case scenario when really it's actually her body just needs food. Labeling, when you label yourself or someone negatively, right? And it's like these big labels. I'm a loser. I'm stupid. I'm an idiot. I'm a failure, right? These are ones we've already heard. Shoulding, or as they say, should thinking, I say stop shoulding all of yourself. When you have rules or expectations how things or people should be, act, or they should go this way, right? Again, those are rules. I should be at this point already. I've had a lot of new clients coming in for my therapy practice, and some of them are people that have been through therapy before, and there's a lot of that shoulding. Like, I should get this already. It's like, no, actually, different aspects of your life bring up different stuff. And every time that you get an opportunity to work on it, you're only strengthening the work that you've done. But in their minds, it should be there already. I hope this isn't getting boring. I know there's a lot. Overgeneralizing, when a single negative event occurs and you believe it's a pattern, very, very similar when you and it might have been a pattern, but say that you overeat, right? But say that you haven't say that you overeating's that's a stupid one. You emotionally eat, right? But say you haven't emotionally eaten in like 3 months, right? And I remember a client saying this, like, "I don't understand. I've been doing so well." And it wasn't even with emotional eating, it was with ruminating. And I said, "Exactly. You've been doing so well. Expect that it's gonna happen again, but that doesn't mean that, like, all of that work that you've done over the 3 months is gone. It means we've just been triggered, and we can gotta get back to where we're going, right? Emotional reasoning, you believe that how you feel is evidence or reflects reality. Inner critic. Fortune telling, when you think the future is set in stone and the outcome is for sure. This is a person who says, "I'm not someone who loses weight. I am not someone who, men are attracted to. I'm not someone who, can make a lot of money." That's a huge one, right? Personalization, you feel personally responsible or guilty for things you can't control. All of my caretakers on here. I remember, and this is why I was not a good clinician. Well, I was a great clinician when it came to client, but I did not have my own boundaries because if my client wasn't doing well, I would take it personally. And at a certain point, I had to grow up and realize, like, I can lead a horse to water, but I can't make it drink, right? Owning the truth, when you are certain you are right and your opinion is truth, right? So this is kind of that. I don't use this one as much in practice, but I am right, you are wrong type of thinking. Just world thinking, when you assume that everything in the world will be balanced fairly. This is unfair. It's like, well, is it? Right. And then control fallacy, when you assume you can control everything that happens to you in your life. So these are the distortions. I want you guys to be thinking about which one of those distortions feels the strongest. Just you have to pick one. So hopefully you can still see the screen. You have to pick one. If I pick one, I would say, um, hmm, I don't know. I think mind reading, especially because I mind read a lot. I don't mind read, I like behavior read. So, I will just assume people don't wanna hear, like, if I wanna reach out to them or that I need help, like, they don't wanna hear it, so I don't ask, right? So I, like, make this story up that they don't wanna hear it, they're too busy, like, don't be a burden, blah, blah, blah. So that's one that I struggle with. So, this is really important because your inner critic will have kind of a script that it runs, and you guys can already see, so if we're looking at some of your inner critic struggles, feeling not good enough, right? That could be should thinking. I should be doing this. I should be doing that because it's telling you, like, still not enough. Keep going, right? So that would be shoulding. I can't do anything right. Negative focus, right? Negative focus. Everything I do is negative when I know there's plenty of things that you can do right. So I want you guys perfect. Should thinking and fortune telling. I know it's two, but I couldn't pick. Gotcha. No, I appreciate that. So again, just to come back, because we always want to reiterate, when we're heightened, when we're triggered, when we're freaking the F out, first thing we need to do is bring that body back down. Like I know it's so hard in the moment. That's why we need to practice the relaxation response outside of being triggered. We need to bring that body back down, right? We need to realize like I need to make a decision here. And then we need to acknowledge that inner critic and say, there it is, right? There's that critic. I want you to pretend like it's this thing that standing in your face. Okay. Look at it, face it. Hey, hey, Judy. Hey, Helga, right? Hey, Craig. Listen to the voice. What is it saying? Acknowledge the distortion. So we're going to go to that next chart, which is name the distortion. Write the negative thought as it actually sounds. You can write this down. You could put it in your notes. You could just think it out loud. Now, this is where a lot of coaches will tell you, like, then say an affirmation, right? Or do something different. Yes, and okay. So we need to name the distortion. Then we need to state the opposite. Affirm the truth you want to grow in. So if it's, I am not good at anything, I am good at a few things, right? I'm good at this thing. I'm good at painting my toenails. I'm good at writing in cursive. Like, I don't give a shit what it is. It doesn't have to be the opposite to what like, you're so, I'm not good at snowboarding, and when I was snowboarding, guess what? I was like, "You're not good at this." And my brain was like, "But you're gonna get good at it," even though I didn't. I'm good at other things, though. So maybe, Christina, we should focus on those other things, okay? I'm good at dancing, so whatever. So, state the opposite. However, just doing that alone is not enough. When your conscious mind doesn't wanna just hear words, it wants to feel, right? And in order for it to be subconscious, we definitely need it to feel it. So then the next thing we're gonna do is find the proof, okay? So if let me think something. Let me just use a client situation here. Okay, got it. So I'm binging again is the distortion, and that is, what we called overgeneralizing, right? So one single occurrence happens, and now I feel like I'm binging again. State the opposite, right? I've overeaten or I've eaten more than I had planned for today, which is the truth, right? And then you find the proof, right? Every time I'm on call shift, I am hungrier, right? That's true. And when I eat food that energizes me, I feel better, right? This is not the best example, but basically what we wanna do is recall a moment where you felt good. So, let me do another one. I'm unlovable. Nobody loves me. State the opposite. Well, my dog loves me, right? My dog loves me unconditionally. Find the proof. Think of a moment when your dog when you come home and your dog's just waiting there and it's wagging its tail and it's just like, I love you so much. And you're like, I love you too. Feel it in your body, right? You need to experience those sensations of that memory. Okay. That part is so important. And we've kept that out in cognitive behavioral approaches for a very long time. It Cognitive behavioral was like, see the distortion, think something different, do a different behavior. However, if we really want to sear it into our subconscious mind, we need to feel it. And I promise you guys, there is proof. There is proof, probably more proof than you need, against the distortion, right? I'm never enough. Well, actually, if I actually wrote out my day and everything that I do, I'm doing a lot. I'm doing a lot. And my boss told me the other day, like, you're doing a really great job. Feel it in your body. Now, for some of you, that you're doing a really great job goes in one ear and out the other. But maybe you go back to it. Like, what would that have felt like if I actually let that sink? I might have felt good, right? Then we anchor to an affirmation, right? Because it's true because you already lived it. I am lovable. I am lovable. That dog loves me. And I can feel that. And then we integrate that into your qualities, right? Recognizing I possess love. I am lovable. I have proof. There's fact. And we do that over and over again. Okay. This sounds like a lot, and it is. However, over time, it doesn't become this kind of like do this and then do that and then do this and do that. It becomes like it's like the first time you learn how to squat, right? Probably like, okay, so I've got a barbell squat. I got to hold this on my back. Okay, I got to engage my lats. I've got to engage my core. Okay, where are my feet? Where are my hips? You should be doing that before you put the barbell on the back. Where are my toes? Okay, and then I squat down. You right? Like it's how it feels. It when you first start doing it, but eventually it's just you're just dropping low, right? You're getting low. So let's go through it one more time. Acknowledge that we're stressed, bring our bodies down. Recognize the inner critic is there and it is loud. Name the distortion, right? What negative thought is there? What is it telling me? And face it. We're not trying to block it. We're not trying to run around it. We need to face it. The only way to get through it is through it, right? Then we're going to say, yeah, that's not true. Actually, this happened and it's the opposite of what I'm thinking here. And when that happened, I felt really good about it. Affirm yourself. I am good. I'm really good at a lot of things. And then we integrate it in. Questions about that. Questions about that. All right, we've got okay, so we have catastrophizing. The one was living my brain, or that one is living in my brain every shift. I can imagine as a nurse, like for my healthcare workers, it's like I'm gonna something's gonna go wrong. This is why I could never be a nurse. Like I'm a freaking schizo when it comes to therapy. Like, and I'm not even like messing with people's buttons, So I totally get that. And then personalization, yep, taking it personally. So all of this is practice, you guys. But eventually, what happens, and I talked about this last week, is when you're triggered or that thought comes into your mind, rather than believing it, having those negative feelings around it, and keeping that loop going, you're saying, whoa, 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 time out, time out. And your brain goes, wait, that's different. Time out's different. So just that alone is different. Acknowledging it, different. And then now I'm starting to think about something else. And this is where what I told you guys already, you are not your thoughts. You're the thinker of your thoughts. This is the step to becoming the thinker. You are simply saying, I'm going to think about something else. I'm going to feel about something else. And I'm going to reconnect it to this trigger. So now, anytime I think I'm not good enough, the brain goes, yeah, that's not true. When you do it enough over time, the trigger kind of goes away. Or when it does happen, for me, this is true for me and a lot of my clients, your brain goes, "Yeah, that's not true." Or as I've told you guys, my brain's default is, "Yeah, we're not doing that right now. We're not doing it right now." And I'll tell you, I mean, you guys all know, like, going through loss and grief, there was a lot of this happening. A lot of, like, old shit coming up where there were times where I just sat there spiraling, and it's interesting when you do this work and you know, reprogram your brain, and then something happens and you find yourself back in that situation, you know you're in it. You know you're in it, and even when I knew I was in it, I didn't try to get out of it until I didn't try to get out of it as I normally would, but I got out of it. And now I can look back and say, "Okay, there was a relapse," right? And that's bound to happen when big shit happens in your life. Um, and I don't judge myself for it. It just is. Okay, I have a question. I find myself not celebrating my wins. I tend to see it as a task, and once it's done, I just feel relief that it's over rather than feeling successful. I don't know how to stop that. This is so important. And I think a lot of my clients very much, I do not even think, I know they very much struggle with celebrating their wins. For people who have learned that their worth, their value comes from achievement, right? If I celebrate and say, I did it, same, same, feeling proud is very, very hard for me. Yes. It's kind of funny because you think if you're an overachiever, you're gonna be, like, celebrating all the time, when that's exactly the opposite of what high achievers do, because they have learned that I get praise, I get recognition, I get seen, I am heard, whatever it is, it's not all of those, yours is unique, when I accomplish things, right? Whether that's a checklist, a good grade, a sport. Yep, struggle with that as well. See? I love it. And if I only know that accomplishment is how I'm gonna be seen, heard, and loved, feeling proud of myself or saying I did it means that I'm done accomplishing. And if I'm done accomplishing, what is that a threat to? It's a threat to being seen, heard, and loved, right? There's other parts to that too, right? Where how do I wanna say this? Let me know if that resonates with you guys, of that my identity is in doing rather than being. And if I'm not doing, what am I? Right? Because again, I get it, like, once it's done, but it's not only once it's done, it's done and I'm looking for the next thing, right? We keep going. We keep looking for the next thing. One of the hardest things for a lot of women to do is to sit and feel proud. It's one of my favorite things to teach people. Sit and feel proud about something small and just look if the world ended. Like, look if the people who love you leave, right? I think of it too as like if in an high achiever's brain, if I get comfortable with being, then oh, I had a really great saying in my head. Shoot. See, this happens every live stream. There's just that fear if I get comfortable with being, I'm not gonna be seen anymore, right? So, feeling proud of yourself is something we have to reparent ourselves about. You never maybe learned that, or in certain situations in your upbringing, it could have been like I think of actually one of you on here where, like, it was your parents just knew you were gonna get good grades because you just got good grades, right? But your sibling didn't get good grades. So the attention was on the sibling. You're over here getting good grades, being like, I have straight fucking A's and no one's celebrating me. So what do we learn from that? Being successful is, I don't win here. It's expected of me. So if it's expected of me, I've got to keep doing it without the celebration. Does that hit for anyone? Oh, let's see. 100% yes. That, and for me, it's, well, I could have done better, right? Well, and for all of you, if it was just expected of you, because you could have been that hero child, right? Or that golden child is what we call it. It's expected that so and so does well. They can't not do well, because if you don't do well, then you expose the family secrets. This is a whole nother conversation. Hey, yeah, that is you. So I would, like I said already, practice sitting with, I feel proud. And if shame comes up, because remember, shame is I am wrong. If shame comes up, it's because you were never given the opportunity to feel proud of yourself. You're a fucking workhorse. The workhorse isn't the derby horse that gets to wear the rose, right? And have the celebration. It's the workhorse. And that's what we learn to be. You're a fucking derby horse, okay? So you should celebrate yourself. I am really good at this now. And it took a lot of time, but it feels so good to be like, fuck yeah, I did that, you know? And that doesn't mean that I just like stop doing things, but I at least like enjoy it. I'll take this is something actually, now that I think about it, I don't know where this comes from, but when I was in college in undergrad, if I felt like I did really good on a test, I would take myself out to dinner or to lunch, like by myself. I I would like I was 21, 22. I'd sit at the bar, talk to the bartender, order myself a steak, right? Have a little drink because I was 22 and, I drink any time of the day. I mean, I guess I can do that now too. But anyway, I would do that. And that has become what it is today, where I'm like, I will tell Mark, my husband, like, I feel really proud of myself because of that, you know? And I think that part of it is tough because if you're around people who also are not very like celebratory, it can make you feel like "Wah, wah, wah." That is why in this program we share our wins. We share our wins. We have that moment in the community forum. And I want you guys to hear, even if it's like, I want to share that I felt proud of myself today. It could do nothing, had nothing to do with food, diet, exercise, none of that shit. Because this isn't just a program about those things. It's about here, right? So practice there, practice in the forum. Great question. Great, great questions. Yes, yes. Awesome. Okay. So you guys can um screenshot this. You may already have it. And then what I'll also do is I'll add it in the resources tab in the on-demand folder so that it's there. I'm not gonna lie, there's so many new tools that I've created that are not in the resources tab. So I need to get on that. That is something that is on my to-do list. And then I'll feel proud of myself once it's done. So agreed on feeling proud and feeling shameful. Yeah. Again, it's it's uncomfortable. I mean, if you've never felt that, doing it feels wrong, and shame is I am wrong, right? But just because something feels wrong doesn't mean it's wrong. It just means it's new, right? It's new. So, good, good. Just to reiterate, I know I've done this a few times. We're going to recognize when we're stressed, and because we practice relaxation, we're going to breathe our way down. We need to do that to get any sort of thinking online. If you're it's like when people, say, like, if you're, like, ever in, like, a situation where there's no air, the last thing you wanna do is panic, right? Because then you're hyperventilating and you're gonna lose air. That gives me anxiety saying that out loud because I would hate to be in that situation. I watch that show, Special Forces, and they have to, like, be underwater for a certain amount of time, and people hyperventilate because they get in their fucking head. Anyway, we need to bring our body down, bring our at least frontal cortex online, even though that inner critic's still yelling. We're gonna acknowledge the inner critic, we're gonna name the inner critic, and we're gonna name that distortion. Then the work happens. That is not true. People love me. I am good enough. I can feel proud about myself. And think about it, guys. When was the time you felt proud about yourself? Did the world end? Did people stop loving you? Right? In your adult years, not maybe when you were younger, because that could have been true, right? It could have been true. Some of these things were true for you. Maybe in certain households, feeling proud about yourself was like, oh, you're bragging, right? You're just trying to make us feel jealous. Oh, Miss Goody Two Shoes, she's good enough. I experienced that in my household where being successful and earning money was seen as bad for me from a certain person in my family. So that had a whole situation, right? That's going to impact you. So, anyway, anchor it to the feeling, then to the affirmation, and then integrate it into your life. That's it. Questions, comments, concerns. I'm so happy you guys came today. Next week, we are going to continue this conversation. I I want to bring this conversation up. I don't know how well received it will be. There's a lot of research in positive psychology, which is a lot of what we're talking about here, but positive psychology really has, created a name for itself probably over the past 20 years, where we're utilizing things like gratitude and even parts of what I've taught you here, and just talking about gratitude and being able to bring your mind and your body in a place of, "I already have good things. I have accomplished a lot of things." And teaching you how gratitude is just as important in the process of managing stress and reparenting yourself and recreating your identity. It is a very strong tool, but I feel like sometimes people think gratitude is just like blase, like, "Oh yeah, be happy for what you have." There's actually a lot of research to back it. So if you guys want me to talk about that next week, that was what I was going to focus on. But other than that, y'all, if you have any ideas, let me know. But we're going to continue the series on stress because stress and emotions and our thoughts are what ends up turning into habits of emotional eating. As you guys have talked about, like just ruminating, negative self talk, putting ourselves down. So if we can get in front of it, that is great. Awesome. All right, guys. Well, if that's all, I will see you guys next. Well, I'll see you tomorrow, but we'll be back here next Thursday. Oh, I love that idea. I've looked into some of this stuff on my capstone and something similar. Oh, yeah, good. Okay. So we'll talk about it. I did a whole training on positive psychology and awe, like being awestruck. It's fascinating. Fascinating. And it's pretty cool because you're like, "Oh, I just get to look at pretty things and I get to take care of my mental health? Cool. Let's do it." I'll